We are so pleased today to have Bobby Soper joining us on this installment of Illuminating Conversations. Bobby is truly a success story in the industry, and today we're going to explore how his career path has made it from the University of Georgia Law School in 1997 to today, the international president of the Mohegan Gaming and Entertainment Company, operated by the Mohegan tribe in Connecticut. And incidentally, I didn't know this, but they operate or own or are developing 8 properties currently: Connecticut, the Poconos in Pennsylvania, South Korea, New Jersey, a Washington State property, 2 in Canada, and 1 in Las Vegas. It's truly a great story about someone who went to undergraduate school and got a business degree at the University of Georgia, and then stays there to go to law school, and then to see you here today, Bobby, with all of this experience, which we're going to get into in the next 20 or 25 minutes. But Bobby, I have to first ask you, when you were in law school and you were in Georgia, I know that you are a member of the Mohegan tribe as well. Was that always the plan to go to college, become a lawyer, and then return to the tribe for which you are a member?
No, James, thanks. It's a pleasure to be here today. No, and it's a good question. My family was raised by the reservation in southeastern Connecticut, but moved down south to Atlanta before I was born. I still stayed involved, went to the powwows, and visited family, every year growing up, but really had no intention of necessarily working for the tribe. Didn't know what the potential was. Gaming wasn't even top of mind growing up.
Right.
And my focus actually in undergrad in law school was business and then ultimately securities law. And I was actually going to work for a securities law firm in Atlanta until my cousin called me up and said, "Look, we're going to open a casino. Why don't you come up here?" And then the rest is history.
Yeah, so you owe your cousin a big thanks, right? And it really is a great story about how you just sort of fell onto the start of the road, and then it all followed from here. And you show up in the legal department in 1997, and you go on to become the senior vice president of that legal department. But things changed for you. They asked you to go to the Poconos to start the first casino in Pennsylvania. What year was that, and how did you make that transition?
Yeah, no, I was very fortunate when I moved to operations out of the general counsel role. I had a great mentor, Bill Villarda, who's now passed away, unfortunately, but he, gave me this opportunity, and the tribe gave me this opportunity, and that was a great experience, right? We purchased the Pocono Raceway license,
Right.
and we ultimately worked with the regulators in this new jurisdiction. To open what was the first casino resort in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Incredible experience, right? I mean, as CEOs, we always like the opportunity to develop and open a new facility, but I think it's extra special to do it in a new jurisdiction. probably 95, 96% of all our team members were new to this industry, right? Most of the regulators were new to this industry. So we all collectively learned together, the trials and tribulations of opening up a new casino in a new jurisdiction. And fortunately, I have to say it went very well. No material issues. Everyone was excited. It was well received by the community, and really one of the highlights and most memorable, I'd say most memorable highlights of my tenure at Mohegan.
And it's still going strong today, I might add. And the thing that I think most people will overlook is that this was one of the first times the tribe left their, casino development on their home nation land and subjected themselves, frankly, to commercial regulation by a commercial regulator. So in a way, the tribe and the management company and all of you were regulated by the Pennsylvania Gaming Board.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I have to give credit to the tribe, the tribal council, for the progressive stance. I think there was always an appreciation. Look, every tribe, has their own philosophy, and no philosophy is right or wrong. but the tribe understood that sovereignty is not necessarily about going off reservation and subject yourself to others' regulation. It's the actual decision to do so. That's the real sovereignty. And they understood that diversification in the long run, both geographically and in different industries, is going to be important. And so this was an opportunity to go off the reservation and begin that diversification.
And we've also seen other people, since that happened many years ago, that has been the blueprint in many, and we're going to get to a few of the things that Mohegan has done as well. But the Porsche Creek Band recently purchased the Las Vegas Sands of Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, and they operate much like your tribe operates in the Pocono. The Porsche Creek Band operates and regulated by the state of Pennsylvania. So it's a very interesting blueprint. So after you launched this casino, and really from the launch all the way through, you were there 7 years, I think, the tribe calls you back and says, hey, you have to come back here to Uncasville in Connecticut and come and run our casino here because we're experiencing some issues that we think that we really need your experience on. Tell me about when you came back. What did you find, and how much of a challenge was that?
When I went back to Connecticut from Pennsylvania, I think the company was still digging, ourselves a little bit out of the 2008 economic fallout. And, because of that, I think perhaps, we lost a little bit of focus on our culture and guest service, which has been, still today, a core focus for the organization, right? Perhaps morale was not where it should be, again, partly due to the fallout of 2008. And so when I started the new role as CEO there, we held a town hall, invited, all, I think, 8,000 team members to get their feedback, right? And, what we learned is that, we needed better communication. We needed more transparency. We, needed to refocus on this, which we did. And we also, incorporated, I think, more accountability, along with, positive incentives, including a major bonus program to drive guest service and profitability. And, ultimately, I think we were able to recapture the culture, which we were familiar with, which focused on respect and open communication, relationships, and that's both for team members and our guests. And so ultimately, I think that translated into elevated guest service, profitability, and I think paid dividends for the company in the years thereafter.
I would say that coming back to a turnaround is always hard, and you were the president and you got it done with the town halls. But what many people might not know is that you actually won an award for one of Forbes' best places to work, and which is incredible because usually you don't get that kind of award when you're having to make tough decisions and you're turning things around. So I think that's a testament to when somebody else votes you as one of the best places to work, rather than someone just saying, hey, it's a great place to work. So I guess all that you did in terms of the morale and the engagement really worked, and that's really how they dug themselves out of a little bit of a hole, and are they still using all those techniques today? That's all part of the culture now.
Absolutely. And, we've got great leadership there at the property, Ray at the MG level now, Ray Pinot and Jeff Hamilton at the property level. And they've always been believers, in our culture, who we're all about. And we all believe, and it's somewhat cliche-ish, that when you treat your team members right, and that's not just about pay. In fact, pay arguably is less important than about relationships, respect, communication, all the things we talked about. Right. Then everything else will come in place, right? Guest service will come in place, all those other things. And I believe our leadership definitely are disciples of that philosophy.
That's really great to know. And very rarely to hear a lawyer say all those things about how to run a business. So that's great. So just as you were completing your term there before you stepped away to run your own business, which we're going to get there in a minute, the tribe got in a relationship with the Cowitz tribe in Washington State. and where you and your team helped to build and design and start the Ilani Resort there in Washington. Tell us a little bit about that. How did the two tribes, one from the East Coast and one from the West Coast, get together? Because sometimes we don't always see the tribes work too well together. We have many examples that they do, and sometimes they don't. What was the dynamic there, and how did you get that done? And what's the dynamic today? Are you guys still involved, and how are you still involved?
The commencement of that relationship was arguably the first time we truly were going, outside of our Connecticut property, because that relationship was established well over a decade ago. Actually, I had met the chief's son, David Barnett, who's still involved. He's now, by the way, the chairman of the Cowlitz tribe. There was an appreciation from a tribe to tribe, of all our experience in developing and managing Mohegan Sun, and that relationship grew between the two councils, and ultimately we reached an agreement to help them fund the process to get land into trust, which is not always easy. In fact, it did many years, as you know, James. Right. And we stuck with them all those years, and ultimately, a casino was built, opened through our development expertise, and we still to this day manage that operation.
That's another great example of tribal entities stepping outside their original comfort zone and being in other jurisdictions and working with others and really developing the true tribal business of running casinos. Now, as you stepped away in 2017, because you wanted to be an entrepreneur, from what I've read, and you started Sun Gaming and Hospitality, which, from what I understand, it assists people for everything from fundraising to design and startup, and you've been involved in several high-profile projects, and we don't have time to go through every single one of them. But most recently, you helped transition the Hard Rock Casino in Las Vegas to the Mohegan Sun at the Virgin Hotel. It's quite a bit of mouthful, but it's a Virgin casino. Tell us a little bit about that project. What interested you in that, and what are the kinds of things that you did for your clients there?
When I decided to go on my own, right, and work for myself, I wanted to pursue opportunities as an investor, partner in both gaming and non-gaming, but I wanted to stay in the gaming business, in some capacity. And I knew Richard Bosworth, who's the CEO of the property now. He's also part of the ownership team. For a number of years when I was at Mohegan, looked at underwriting some deals, including in Las Vegas. He asked me to come assist them with the acquisition from Brookfield of the Hard Rock. They put down the game plan. They established the relationship with Virgin Hotels, Richard Branson included, and they wanted to leverage my experience and expertise as it relates to integrated resorts and casinos, especially the due diligence and the transaction. And it was an exciting transaction. I certainly obliged, and it was a fun process, right? There was ups and downs, but fortunately we were successful in acquiring it. And then, the transaction was structured, I think, uniquely, sort of as a real estate, not your traditional casino finance structure. And they needed a casino lessee. And then, so naturally, Mohegan was a great choice, a company that wanted to expand again, nationally, internationally, always wanted to be in Vegas. And this seemed like a good fit.
Some of our listeners and viewers may not know that Hard Rock was the only Hard Rock that was not a part of the Seminole Indian tribe's ownership of all of the other Hard Rocks around the world. And that's why Brookfield Properties own that. Obviously it's been a great success. You did make some headlines though. When the Mohegan Sun, the tribe, heads to Las Vegas, there's always been some rivalry between Las Vegas operators and tribal operators, and in a way, you showed up on their home turf. What is there a lesson for the larger gaming industry out there? Lessons for other tribes? What lesson would you want to tell us all about tribal entities, tribal commercial entities coming to Las Vegas and playing in that space?
I think perhaps the perception that it's Vegas versus tribes, it may be a little overstated. Look, as the California tribes, open their regional operations, we know, half of the visitation are drive to Vegas are driving customers, right, from California. And so, I think that perception was created from that. But the truth is, look, Vegas, even throughout the time the tribes grew their operations in California, evolved, right, and did very well during that growth, right? They did fine. I think, to your point, that you have a tribe in Mohegan. Now you have another tribe, as you mentioned before, San Manuel, who
Right.
is, who's just recently announced purchasing of the Palms.
Right.
You're seeing this immersion. I think it's not only Vegas, immersion of commercial gaming and tribal gaming, right? And this is an opportunity for tribes, again, to diversify, right? The gravy train will eventually run out. There's no question about it. And so there's ways to diversify, whether it's outside the sector or geographically. Vegas has always been a place, if you can put your flag there, not even from a monetary economic returns perspective, but also from a branding standpoint, right? Especially if you want to, expand your footprint internationally, right? When you can put your name, by that Las Vegas, location, I think it bodes well. And I think we're going to see more. I think you're going to see more tribes entering into that market. And I think it's positive both for Vegas and for tribes.
That's interesting because you're right. GLI did not have an office in Las Vegas for years because there was no lab testing. In fact, we went to Las Vegas 6 or 7 or 8 years even before we could test for the Nevada market. But everybody seems to be there. The suppliers are there, other operators are there. You have to be in the flow. And Las Vegas, clearly, as far as the United States goes, is clearly the flow. You're now the president. You've now been named the president of the international division of Mohegan Entertainment and Gaming and Gaming and Entertainment. And I think it's interesting, like what's even harder they're going to keep throwing at you, right? They move you to Pocono and then they move you back to Connecticut and now it's like, okay, we're just going to give him something really hard to do. And I know that you've been working really hard on the Mohegans' relationship and their new international property that you're building in by the Incheon Airport in South Korea, a massive project. I think it's been reported might be something like 5 billion or something along those lines. Tell us, where are you on that effort now? And obviously tell us what you can, but that's not privileged or confidential. But where is that? Because I know that South Korea is one of those markets that not everybody in the world really knows about, but it is massive. And I think it's only open to non-residents, right? You have to be an international resident to go to a casino. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct. So, look, the tribe is family to me. They asked me to take on this. And so I've taken a break from some of my entrepreneurial initiatives. And look, this project means a lot, not only because it's family, but this was one of the last major undertakings, when I was CEO of MGE, overseeing the RFC, RFP process and procuring that IR license. And so it's personal to me. It's been a roller coaster. We've had our ups and downs. COVID certainly threw a curveball. We're in the ground. We have significant investment in the ground. We need to finalize some of the, we'll call it final financing. And I just spent 2.5 months in Korea pursuing that. I think we're far along. My goal is to close that transaction in the very near future, remobilize and get construction going and opening in 2023. Hopefully, second quarter, third quarter, latest 2023. It's a tremendous opportunity, and it is locals gaming. But let's keep in mind, the Greater Seoul is 28 million people, right? This is really the truly first integrated resort. Paradise opened at Incheon as well. MICE, hotel focused, but we're entertainment focused, right? That's who we are. That's our brand. And, when you have 28 million people in the pop culture hub of Asia, the live entertainment, hub of Asia. And there really is not an indoor arena in Greater Seoul. Like there's some stadiums, but they're all suboptimal for live entertainment. That's the type of opportunity we're looking at here. And whether it's nightlife, whether it's live entertainment, whether it's all these other elements. So a good part of our traffic really will be driven locally through the Greater Seoul area. But there's still a great opportunity for the international gamer. Remember, our tax rate is less than half of what it is in Macau. So when you bring all these amenities and you look at the potential from China and Japan, we feel really good about the opportunity, both on the non-gaming side and even on the gaming side.
Right. And when I saw pictures of the resort, it's not all about the casino. There is a lot of entertainment. There's a lot of fun things to do there. It's state of the art. In some ways, you look at it, and the casino is important, but it's not the main thing that you're doing. And it's truly an integrated resort, which is great. And just so that's not ridiculously hard, going to South Korea, as you said, 2.5 months you were there trying to get this thing started. COVID. You and your company is also working with a partner in Nagasaki and trying to get an IR license in Japan, another very difficult market to work through, not only culturally, but the speed of which the Japan casino emergence is going. Many of us think it's about the right pace because we've done business in Japan a long time. Others around the world think it's terribly slow. But how are things going for you in Japan?
Originally, Mohegan spearheaded, as the primary party, a bid in Okada that didn't work out. The prefecture decided not to move forward. And then we wanted to really refocus on our other properties, including internationally, Korea being number one because it's under development, right? And then our operations, Niagara Falls, you mentioned, and some others. But in this case, Oshidori Holdings, which is the primary owner, needed a casino partner. We thought this is a good opportunity to have sort of a limited role as the casino partner, not drive the process, allow us to focus on Korea, most of our resources and effort, in that part of Asia. But then as a casino partner, leverage, the two properties, right? There's some cross-marketing opportunities. The truth is it's right across the water. And they're both going to be spectacular integrated resorts. And I'll just give you an example. I mean, it's not only about database cross-marketing, but we're going to bring Western acts to Korea, right? That resonate in that market. It's kind of inefficient, but when you have two properties that you can bring those acts to, you capture a lot of economies of scale. It makes it more efficient. There's a number of examples like that, but we just think there's tremendous synergies between the two properties.
And they're closely geographic. It's like an hour or two flight. It's super simple to get there. Before we leave gaming, and talk about some of the other things you're doing that are just totally fabulous. How do you see the future of gaming? The online gaming, the online lottery, social, digital. We've just heard overnight that Scientific Games is spinning off their lottery and their sports betting business. But lottery, digital, sports betting, iGaming, really been huge during this pandemic. And I know that you're no stranger to that because I believe in the tribe's relationship with resorts in Atlantic City, you also had some iGaming assets that you've been implementing for years. How do you see that progressing, not only within the tribal gaming space, but outside?
Yeah. So as it relates to Mohegan, I was fortunate when I was CEO that we were able to be one of the first companies to launch pay-for-play online gaming because we had a skin at resorts in Atlantic City. I'm personally a big believer. Look, I think we're all fooling ourselves if we don't think that online gaming in any form, whether it's lottery, sports wagering, or casino gaming as we know it, is going to continue to grow and will to some degree cannibalize land-based gaming. And I always like to reference as a good analogy the retail sector. We see what happened with what is called the retail apocalypse. Literally, the year before COVID started, you had 9,000 stores closed. And, all the experts in the retail sector are saying that another 75,000 are going to close in the next 5 years, including 25% of all the shopping malls. Why? It's because the new generation wants to do their activities online, on mobile, right? There was a survey done, I think 2 or 3 years ago, asking, every generation that was of gambling age, how important, is casino gaming to them. The millennials, it was only 21%, which was half of what, the Gen X and baby boomers. And you can guarantee the Gen Z, as they get older,
Right.
it's even going to be worse. So we should take lessons from retail and understand and plan ahead, and adopt digital strategies now. It doesn't mean you forget land base and you focus and you maximize and optimize profit, but we're going to have to repurpose these buildings just as shopping malls are having to repurpose themselves, right, and landlords are having to repurpose their space. So for me, that should be a focus, a great digital strategy. Fortunately, Mohegan has been doing that for years and continues to do so.
And so before we have 4 or 5 minutes left, I really want to get into what you're doing outside of gaming, because I've totally found this fascinating. As an entrepreneur, you have your attentions in other places as well. And I understand that you're a big advocate of renewable energy, and you're an entrepreneur in this space. I think it'd be great for the audience to hear a little bit about what are you doing in that space?
Yeah, look, as an entrepreneur, my focus were on initiatives that, were either emerging, innovative, and have exponential growth, which, by the way, included online gaming and sports wagering and so forth. But renewable energy is definitely one of those things. This is, the problems that we're facing environmentally, and solutions need to come, in my opinion, from the private sector. Right. Government can do so much. This is we'll call it a public good problem. But at the end of the day, technology is going to fix the solution. And so just a couple examples. I'm an investor, a part owner of a project here where I'm at in South Florida, Miami, developing what will be the greenest micro steel mill in the United States, which is taking recycled trash, recycled scrap, and producing long steel products, finished steel products with very low carbon footprint. So imagine a micro steel mill, which has or steel mills which have that reputation of pollution, becoming a green product. And one other project I'll mention, this actually emanated from time I spent in Asia and Thailand, is a pyrolysis, basically taking single-use, end-of-life plastic, the stuff you hear about, impacting marine life,
the oceans and the big trash area in the ocean. Yep.
Exactly, and basically incinerating it into low sulfur, very clean fuel. Again, with no emissions. Really, this is a process that is efficient. We put these at landfills where the trash is. We can put them on the ocean because they're not very large. And it's an opportunity to solve some of these problems, again, through the private sector, and also generate returns at the same time. And so those are the types of projects for me that are exciting, because it's the future, right? There's solutions to, problems that we're going to have to address one way or the other.
Wow. From the University of Georgia in 1997 all the way to solving the world's plastic trash issues in the oceans and making steel mills that don't pollute. It's unbelievabally fascinating, all that you've done in such a short time. You said in an interview once for the University of Georgia Law, we're talking to students, that students should prioritize their time and savor every moment. How do you apply those lessons in your life?
No, that's a good question. So, when we're in school, we don't necessarily know what we don't know, right? And when you have the advantage of looking back, it provides a different perspective. And, law school was kind of a dog-eat-dog environment, and you're living in that moment. And so, what many of us learn, including myself, and what I wanted to share with the students, is that focusing on what is important, especially relationships, those moments you share with the people you want to be around, those are going to be the most memorable in the long run. And it's unfortunate. Life is funny that way. You don't realize it at that point, but through all the experiences, including your professional experiences, it teaches you that. And that was really the point I was trying to make.
Well, thanks for that. And we've come to our end of our time with Bobby Soper on today's installment of Illuminating Conversations. Bobby, thanks so much for joining us today. We really appreciate it.
James, my pleasure. Thanks for inviting me.